We are back for another community questions. Welcome. Had a lot of questions, no surprise, about the shoulder, the most mobile joint in the body. People with hypermobility, it's going to be probably problematic for a large majority of our community. So I wasn't surprised to get several questions about shoulder stability. So can you give me some help with shoulders and rotator cuff? Okay, now the rotator cuff is a super important group of muscles to help with shoulder stability. They're hugely important for shoulder stability. So it is important that we do look at the rotator cuff, but I don't want to just focus on the rotator cuff. I know there's oftentimes we're given loads of rotator cuff exercises to do, which is great, but I've also seen the downside of that in that it kind of fatigues that area and it's not integrated into the rest of the body. So remember, I take a very much a whole body approach to my work rather than targeting individual muscles. Again, that's just my approach. I like to look at how everything is impacting everything else. So yes, rotator cuff is part of the shoulder rehab, but it's not the only thing that I look at. But we will look at some rotator cuff exercises. And then we also had shoulder subluxations causing neck and back pain. So yeah, absolutely. And I've got a whole live class on it. Well, actually on this YouTube channel, there are loads of classes about shoulders. As I said, it's a hugely popular topic for our community. So there's loads of shoulder classes on here, but there's also a live shoulder stability class on here that you might want to go and look at, because we go into the shoulder anatomy in quite a lot of detail, and you might find that quite useful, as well as some of my favorite shoulder exercises. So please head over and have a look at those classes after this one. But yes, if you're having repeated shoulder subluxations, obviously the area is very unstable, the tissues are going to get very inflamed and sore and painful, and of course the area is in close proximity to our neck and to our upper back, so that whole area is probably going to start, if you've had a subluxation, the area around that is going to start tightening up to try and take on that stabilization role. So it's not surprising that we start to get neck pain and upper back pain. So, you know, what do we need to do? Well, we need to work on preventing the subluxations. A lot of that, and again, I've got loads of stuff on here about how to use your arms, but a lot of that is going to come from how we actually are using our arms. A lot of what I do in clinic is helping people understand the mechanics and how to use their arms properly. Okay, and once we've got that, it makes such a difference. I mean, people are like, I have never felt that sensation before. Because for most of us, me included, we've spent most of our lives totally using our arms in the wrong way. Very much front body. You know, if we lift up our arm, the whole shoulder comes up with us. Very, very tight pecs, lifting from the front body. So when you start to actually activate and find the proper arm muscles, let's put it that way, life becomes much easier. Pain starts to go down, the right muscles start doing their job, and the ones that have become super tight, I think there was another question somewhere about my upper traps, which are the muscles that run across here, are always super tight. I mean, yeah, mine used to be so hard I could barely touch them. Why were they so tight? Probably because I had poor shoulder and arm mechanics, and the upper traps were kind of holding me up. Not to mention, of course, the bracing and the holding patterns and the tight thoraxes that many of us adopt, you know, and this almost lack of movement in this area causing this buildup of tension and tightness up here. Okay, so can you see how there's so many factors We can't just put it down to a poor rotator cuff, because it just made me think of something else. You know, if we're like this and we're very, very tight, what happens when one area gets super, super tight? The joints above and below those areas start moving a lot more. So if I'm really rigid here with fixed thoracic spine, my neck is going to have to start doing more work. My lumbar spine is going to have to start doing more work, because remember, the spine is a force distributor. Now, if that force isn't getting distributed evenly throughout the whole spine, it's going to have to find, as we always say, the path of least resistance. So if I can't get movement through my thorax, I'll just go to my neck and my lumbar spine. Now, of course, what sits on your thorax are your shoulder blades, yes, and your arms are coming out of here. So if this bit doesn't move, guess what else is going to start moving about a little bit too much? The shoulder joint, yeah? And it's a very, very shallow joint, of course, yeah? It's held in place, hopefully, by very strong ligaments. But if you've got ligament laxity, yeah, you see where the problem is. So you've got a shallow joint with possible ligament laxity. Can I get a subluxation? Yeah. So overall, whole body movement is so key. Okay, we've definitely got to get this thorax moving for sure. Okay, if we want to prevent shoulder subluxations. And also, I've got a video on here called The Truth About Subluxations. I'm a huge advocate for the benefits of correct breathing practice to help prevent subluxations. Again, I go into a lot more detail in that video, but if again this is rigid because I'm holding myself in this fixed braced pattern, I'm not going to be able to breathe properly, so I can't expand my tissues properly. Everything gets very sticky and tight, and then I turn or I reach for something, I haven't got the gliding, fascial gliding that we need to reach for something safely. So it could be quite likely that I could cause a subluxation because all of this is tight. Do you see sort of where my thought processes are coming from? That everything, it needs to be balanced throughout the whole system. We can't just go in my opinion, there's very little point doing tons and tons and tons and tons of rotator cuff exercises if everything else is like, nah, I'm not taking part in this. I'm stiff, I'm rigid, I'm flexible. How are they all going to come together and work as a team? I don't see how they are. So please go and look at all those other videos that I've mentioned. The Truth About Stability, the Truth About Subluxations, they're under the live classes. I've also got a 5-a-day. There's a playlist called 5-a-day for shoulders. You might want to look at that. Got another one which is really popular and I've got great response about, I think it's called How to Fix Shoulder Pain. And that tells you how to use your arms properly. So I go into detail about that, how we should be using our arms properly. So I hope that answered your questions about shoulders. It's a hugely complex topic, and as you can see, my brain goes all over the place joining these dots as to how we deal with this. It's not just one thing. It's going to be multiple things that help us fix all of those contributing factors to our neck pain, our shoulder pain, our upper back pain. But yeah, great question. I've got loads of resources on here. Please go and have a look at those, and I will see you again soon.